Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about our next tutorial for our next collage assignment. And what we're going to be doing is this awesome technique called the Kaleidoscope Collage. So I just put the two photos side by side so you can see what we're going to do today. But if you look, the photo on the left is just of some mountains. And the photo on the right is that kaleidoscope collage. So we did some awesome stuff where in this photo we drew some circles. They're all the same size. I just moved them and overlapped them. And then what I did was I started putting the picture into the little shapes that are created by the overlapping areas. So if you look in each shape, there's a different part of that photograph, which really creates an awesome effect. So in this tutorial, we're going to cover a couple different Photoshop techniques. We're going to cover how to import a photo from the internet, which is from Pexels. We're going to talk about how to create a shape in Photoshop, which is those circles for the kaleidoscope. We're going to learn how to use the magic wand, which is a new selection tool that helps us select an area of pixels and change that area. And then lastly, we're going to learn how to transform some photos. So the first thing that we're going to cover is how to get a photo from the internet to our Google Drive so that we can open it in AppStream. So if I go to pexels.com, you're going to get this website that allows us to get free stock photos. So these are photos that are free to use. They can be landscapes, they can be people, they can be different things. So for our kaleidoscope, we're going to use a landscape. So you guys can choose whichever one. You could type in mountains. I'm going to type in landscape. And you're going to get all these different landscape photos. And you can choose whichever one that you want to use. So I'm going to go with this first mountain one here. So how do we get this from this website to our Google Drive? Easy peasy. Just got to click on it, go to free download up at the top, and it will download right to your computer. I like to just drag it to my desktop. So now if I go to my Google Drive, I go to my digital imaging folder, I can just drag that photo right into my folder, and now I'm able to open that in Photoshop using the Photoshop app stream. So here I am. I got my photo in Photoshop, and now we're going to start doing our kaleidoscope effect. Okay? So first things first, what I want to do here is I'm going to add a new layer, and we're going to start by learning how to draw the shapes to create the kaleidoscope. So I'm going to add a new layer, which is in our layers menu down at the bottom right hand corner. It's a box with a plus. Once you hover over it, it'll tell you what it is. So create a new layer. Now I'm going to fill this with color. I go to edit, fill. I'm going to choose a color, and I want you to choose a dark gray and click OK. So now we got our dark color, which is right over our background. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create that kaleidoscope effect. So if I look at the example here, the kaleidoscope effect gives us these circles. So I drew 5 circles that were the same size and overlapped them. And when they overlap, they create these separate shapes, which I filled with different parts of the photograph to create that awesome effect. So to do that, you can use triangles, you could use squares. It's totally your choice. But we need to find our shape tool, which is going to be on the left side here. And it's usually the 1, 2, third one from the bottom. Now yours might be a rectangle there, it might be a triangle. To change it, I click and hold on that shape, and now I can choose a rectangle, a rounded rectangle, an ellipse, If you wanted to, you could use a triangle. Just click the polygon tool, double click, and it brings up this menu. So now I can change the shape to, 3 sides, 4, 5 sides, whatever it may be. So if you wanted a triangle, obviously you would do 3 sides. You would click OK. Click, hold, and drag, and you'll create an isosceles triangle. For mine, I'm going to go with an ellipses. Now, when I try to draw this, you'll notice you might not get a perfect circle. If I hold Shift and draw, I'll go ahead and get a perfect circle. So now, once I got my shape, you'll notice that I have the ability to change the color, the ability to change the stroke. So fill is the color and stroke is the outline. So we're going to make this no fill, and we're going to make it have a white stroke. So I go to fill, and I go to the box with the red line, no color. I go to stroke, and I'm going to go to the white one. Now I'm going to make this, you can change the size of the stroke. I'm going to make this about 20 pixels right in there. So now what I can do is if I hit Control T, or if you look at the top, if Control T doesn't work for you, up at the top we get Show Transform Controls. If you hit that box, it allows us to resize and move our shape. So I'm going to put this one in the middle. I'm going to hit Control C to copy it, and Control V, which should paste it. I guess not. Let's do this. Let's double click on the ellipse layer and go to Duplicate Layer. Click OK. So now I should have 2 ellipses. Yep. So now I can drag one, and I'll put that one there. I'm going to duplicate that layer. Click OK. Make sure you click in the white when you drag. The reason is if I don't click on the white, if I click on the gray, I'll move that gray background, and that can get really annoying. So make sure you hover over and look closely and click on the white. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate that again. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to get enough circles to get really cool overlapping shapes. So I'll duplicate that layer. Click OK. Drag that one over. Good, good, good. Maybe I'll do one more. I'm going to go duplicate layer. Click OK. Maybe I'll drag this one to like right here. I'll duplicate layer and click OK. I'll drag that one to right there. So now I get this really cool kaleidoscope. Maybe there's a couple in here that I want to delete. Yeah, I'll delete the top one and the bottom one. Maybe I'll pull this up a little bit more. And I'll pull this one down just to create some good space, and so forth. So now what I'm going to show you is how to go ahead and create the photograph inside some of these shapes. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to merge all of these white circles that I made and the gray background together. So I'm going to click on my gray layer in my layers menu. I'm going to hold Shift, and I'm going to click the top ellipses layer. Then I'm going to go to Layer, and I'm going to go down to Merge Layers. That's just going to combine them all into one. So now this is all one picture. Okay? So now what I need to do is I need to select the various shapes in this image and change them to be the picture. So how do I do that? Okay. I'm going to first click on this background layer and make a second copy. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to duplicate layer and click OK. Now I'm going to click my top ellipses layer and we're going to learn about the magic wand tool. Now the magic wand tool is over here. It's the fourth one down. If I click and hold, you'll notice the quick selection, which we used before. Today we want the magic wand. This is a tool that you click once and it selects a field of color, all the same color. So let's say I click in this top circle right here. Boom. It creates the selection of the gray that's within the white lines. So it separates the color. It's like, okay, I can see the difference here. So now I'm going to hold shift and I can click more shapes. So now I have I got 4 shapes selected. I like to do maybe 2 at a time or 4 at a time. I like to try to just, keep it simple. So I'm going to do the top 2. Click. Now if I don't hold shift and I try to click a second shape, my other one goes away. So I have to hold shift to make extra selections. All right, so how do we get that photo into these spots? Well, now that I have this selected, and this is the tricky part, if I click on my background copy layer, when I copy and paste this, it's only going to copy and paste the image in those 2 areas. So watch. I'm going to hit Control C, Control V, and look at my layers menu. It made these 2 little half circles. If I drag this to the top, watch. It put the photo right there in those circles. So let's do that again. Let's do the other 2 sides. Okay. So now what I can do is, let's say because if obviously I keep going, it's just going to put it straight up and down. We want to kind of change the photo. So I'm going to click on my background copy layer. I'm going to go to my move tool and I'm going to take this and I'm just going to rotate it a little bit. I'll hit return. And now I'm going to go back to my ellipse layer. Got to go back to the layer with the circles. I get my magic wand tool and let's do the outside too. I click one, I hold shift, I click the other, I go to my background copy, I hit Control C, Control V, drag it to the top, and now look, now the image is just in those circles. So how does that work? Basically, when I select an area on my ellipse layer, I'm saying I only want the photo to be in that area. So I'm going to do these middle 2. Okay. I'm going to go to my background copy layer. I'm going to go to my move tool to move it. And now let's take this and I'm just going to rotate it till it's upside down. And I can kind of look in the icon in my layers menu to see where it's at. I hit return. I'm going to go to my ellipse layer, get my magic wand tool. I'm going to click in this shape. I'm going to hold shift and click in this shape. I'm going to go to my background copy. I'm going to hit Control C, Control V, and I'm going to drag this to the top, and boom, we start getting the pictures inside. Some problems that you might run into. Let's say you go and you move your photo, right? You get your move tool, you want to move it around to change the direction. And then you say okay, and now you go to click in your circles and you get these weird lines popping up. That's because you're not on your ellipse layer. So you got to make sure after you move your image, you go to your ellipse layer. And then if I go shift, I can hold shift and click. Go to my background, copy layer, Control C, Control V, and I drag it above. So now let's do the top. I'm going to move this so that it's right side up. If your photo's too moved out of place, you could just delete it and make a second copy. So now I go to my ellipse layer, I grab my magic wand, I click in the top, I go to my image, I hit Command C, or Control C, Control V, drag that above, and now you can see we're starting to get this awesome effect. Okay, so a couple things. Make sure you go slow. Look at your layers. Make sure you're clicking on the right layer. Okay, make sure when you're trying to select your circles, you're clicking in your ellipse layer. Okay, and that way you know you're getting those shapes. All right. What you'll do is when you're done, or wherever you're at for your progress, obviously make sure you save it, and you save it as a Photoshop document until you're done. Okay? Save it to your Google Drive so that it's easily accessible. Good luck. If you have questions, I will be on Zoom.